Hey guys, we have an interesting video today. We're joined by a special guest, BionicDance. If you don't know who she is, what are you still doing with your life? She's one of the first atheists on this platform and was a huge inspiration to me when I just started out. Anyway, she's here to help us debunk this Prager University video. Yep, this video has been out for a while and many people responded to it already, but I didn't hop on the hype train. So let's make up for that with today's video. Roll the clip.
How did we get here? I mean, literally. Not just you and me, but the whole shebang. How is any kind of life possible? The universe is a hostile place. Solar flares, cosmic rays, asteroids flying about.
The universe being a hostile place is something I sometimes bring up against the existence of a creator. Why would you think that the universe was created just for us if 99.9% of it is completely uninhabitable? Why was so much empty space created at all? Why does the universe have to be so massive? Saying that the universe exists for us is like saying a football stadium was created for the purpose of housing a single bacteria cell on its floor. It's actually more than that. It's like saying 1,000,000 football stadiums exist for the purposes of housing a single molecule. Of course, this doesn't disprove the existence of an almighty being, but it really calls into question on what religious belief entails.
The odds against our existence are truly astronomical.
Is it though? Is it? The universe may not have a large percentage of habitable places, but due to its sheer size, there are actually many. Judging by that, probability-wise, there are many places where life could come about, and out of those places, there are bound to be a few where intelligent life comes about. What part of this is saying that the chances are small? No matter how tiny the odds are of abiogenesis coming about, the chances end up being one that life would exist somewhere, simply due to the sheer size of the universe.
Take it from me. I'm an astrophysicist. My job is to look out into space, at stars and galaxies, trying to answer these basic, how did the universe come to be questions.
I respect this guy. I really do. He's a professor in a very respectable university, so I'm sure he does some actual legit work on astrophysics.
Well, those who have a religious faith have an answer. God.
That's certainly a reply. It's not an answer. I could say that it's the great striped snartlepiffer or the flying spaghetti monster, and the only difference would be how the reply is spelled. Like with any alleged answer, it needs justification. You gotta convince everyone else that you're not just giving a because I said so conclusion. You say the answer is God? Okay, convince me, can you?
The Earth's distance from the sun, the size of the atom, and 1,000 other things large and small that allow us to live and to breathe and to think all seem perfectly tuned for our existence.
Okay there, maybe it could seem that these constants or factors are tuned specifically for our existence, but it's too dangerous to jump to that conclusion. Many of these can be explained away by the sheer size of the universe, like the Goldilocks zone for example. Given enough stars and enough planets, there are bound to be multiple rocks that hover around the habitable zone of a star. As for other things like physical constants, well, this is just simply misusing the concept of probability. How do we know the chances of these factors to be minuscule? There's no way of measuring it. But if, for example, there were multiple universes and we could measure the probability of constants being what they are in all of these universes and calculating the probability, then it would be legit. However, we can only interact with one universe, and based on this, it is not reasonable to assume a probability of any kind when it comes to something that has only appeared once. Name any constant. How exactly would you even estimate the probability of that constant being the value it is when you've only observed it once? It's like saying you think the chances of a car being painted blue is very small after seeing just one blue car. It's meaningless.
To many, this design suggests a designer.
Even if the probability was extremely low for a habitable universe and there's only one universe, that doesn't mean it was a designer that designed it. In fact, we shouldn't be able to jump to any conclusion until we know exactly what happened.
But from a purely scientific point of view, the faithful have a big problem. They can offer no indisputable proof for this belief.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Because of the lack of hard evidence, it's probably not surprising that over 70% of the members of the National Academy of Sciences declare themselves to be atheists. But they have a big problem too. Absent a creator, how do they account for the existence of the universe, of planet Earth, of human consciousness? How do they account for the existence of anything?
Don't know yet. Still working on it. But we don't have to have the right answer to discard a wrong one. Nobody should stay wrong just because their absurd and long-debunked ideas haven't been replaced by something else. And who knows, maybe a god is responsible for this universe. It doesn't seem likely given the available data, but the door isn't closed to new evidence. But one thing is clear, it's definitely not their god.
Well, it turns out they have an answer, and it's become all the rage in scientific circles. It's called the multiverse, and according to many scientists, our universe isn't the whole ballgame. Far from it.
Yep, and it does get quite a lot of hype by the scientific community, partially because it is part of many of the popular hypotheses they've created to explain the universe. For example, black hole cosmology says that the universe is part of the inside of a black hole, with other universes existing in conjunction inside a larger universe. Variations of the string theory states that universes exist parallel to each other like pages in a book. Of course, not all physicists believe the multiverse exists. While some may be using it as an explanation for how this universe is the way it is not yet accepted as truth, and far from it. As popular as it is in the scientific community, that doesn't mean there is scientific consensus, and that's a huge distinction to make. People aren't accepting this as the absolute truth like what theists do with God. And here's the thing, in science, as long as there's a viable alternative explanation, it would undermine the existing explanation. For the, quote, fine-tuning of the universe, the fact that the idea of a multiverse existing means that the explanation of God is less viable. Just like if you're diagnosing a patient, the possibility of another disease perfectly explaining the symptoms can undermine your original diagnosis, and the scientific method entails eliminating all other viable options before accepting something as truth.
These scientists argue that there's an awful lot of universes out there, not just one or two, but an infinite number of them. Let me explain.
Multiverse doesn't necessarily mean there's an infinite number of them. Alright, he's gonna explain the Big Bang now, so let's just roll the clip for a while.
13.8 billion years ago, there was a Big Bang. From something unimaginably small, we don't know exactly what, the universe exploded into existence. How did it happen? Why did it happen? It doesn't matter, because it happened. Immediately after the Big Bang, the universe underwent a rapid expansion. Think of a gush of bubbles exploding from a seriously shaken soda can just after it's popped open. Cosmologists call this the theory of inflation. As the universe inflates and expands, the bubble universes grow and separate to become their own distinct entities, each with their own unique properties.
Well, actually not necessarily. You did describe one possibility, but there are many types of proposed multiverses. Some physicists even gave classifications of them, like max 10 marks for levels. Level 1 is just an extension of the universe, with these multiverses having the same physical properties. Level 2, universes with different physical constants. It is still an extension of the original universe, but some regions may have stopped stretching and ultimately acquire different properties. Level 3, universes are parallel to each other and they may have different physical constants. And Level 4, parallel universes have different mathematical structures. And then you have a few other physicists giving their own classifications of multiverses.
In other words, new universes are spawned, and not just a handful, an infinite number of them. Some of these universes would be too cold for life and some too hot. But with an infinite number, surely one is bound to get it just right. In short, you and I are just an accident that, given enough universes, was inevitable.
Golly, they sure do love to throw around the word accident as if the only possibilities are deliberate action or random chaos. That we're the product of unguided yet regular patterns of natural behavior isn't something they seem prepared to accept or even consider, no matter how many times they're presented with the hypothesis. I know, I've tried.
But wait, there's more. Because there are so many universes, it's very likely, according to the multiverse scenario, that everything that could possibly happen does happen in one universe or another. That girlfriend who broke up with you, you're married to her in another universe. Does this sound a bit far-fetched, a little too science fiction-y? Well, not to Nobel Prize-winning scientists like Steven Weinberg, or the famed cosmologist Stephen Hawking, as well as a myriad of others who wholeheartedly endorse it.
Well, that depends on if you believe whether there are infinite multiverses or not. If so, then mathematically that's the case. Anything that can happen does happen. And of course, to the regular person, it may seem far-fetched or science fiction-y. But when it comes to the universe, intuition should not be used. Many other well-established theories sound absurd to the common ear, especially when it was first presented, such as the Big Bang Theory, the existence of atoms, electromagnetism, and the multiverse is no different. Just because it seems implausible doesn't mean it is. It's important not to use intuition when it comes to theoretical physics.
But here's what's really surprising. They endorse it knowing there's not a single shred of hard scientific evidence that supports it. And how can there be? There's no way we can access another universe.
I may be wrong on this. Where's King Crocoduck when you need him? But I believe it made mathematical sense for multiverses to exist. But of course, just that isn't really enough.
In short, a vast number of the world's most eminent scientists believe in something that hasn't been, and in all likelihood will never be proven. How does that sound to you?
Again, popularity in science is not the same as scientific consensus.
When men stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything.
I'd have to say it's the other way around. God did it is such an easy way to get out of saying, I don't know, and you can make up any old God story to fill in the gaps. On the other hand, finding the right answer without God belief requires checking your conclusions with experimentation in order to make belief, that is, blind, faith-based belief, no longer a factor. The notion that these testable conclusions aren't sought by the non-believer is bizarre. A life lived without checking to make sure could only lead to disaster. Belief in a God can hinder existence. Look at the theists who refuse medical treatment, insisting that their God will intervene for them, and who suffer and die as a result. An atheist doesn't have that kind of faith, and it's only to their benefit. No God required. You know the expression, God helps those who help themselves. If you've helped yourself, what do you need a God for? Even as a child, that saying always sounded to me like a religious get-out-of-jail-free card. Just another way of avoiding the responsibility of proving whether God is real.
Those who believe God created the universe are intellectually honest enough to admit that they do so on the basis of faith. But those who believe in the multiverse are also keeping the faith. They just don't admit it.
Okay, well, I guess for those that take the multiverse to be 100% true, perhaps. Not to mention that it makes mathematical sense and is a result of many of the popular hypotheses of the universe, but whatever. To you, I guess it's faith. Anyway, that's my time. Thank you to BionicDance for joining us today. If you liked what you saw, feel free to go to her channel, link in the description, to check her out. She makes very sound arguments against religion, so I definitely recommend it. Thank you to Fireshard for being the top tier patron this month. I'll see you guys later.